Hope and Liam's coming marriage trouble, troublemaker Thomas not done. The bold and the beautiful spoilers allude that Hope Logan Spencer and Liam Spencer may need to watch out for a familiar trouble to their relationship. Thomas Forrester could still be a problem for Liam, and Hope since he remains connected to Hope for the future. Hope wasn't thrilled about Thomas's return to her line since it meant working with her partner, and it bring Deke Sharp his job. Still, Steffi Forrester Finnegan claimed Thomas was making a comeback whether Hope got on board or not. Of course, effects have worked out well for Hope overall since Thomas substantially works ever from Paris. Thomas didn't want to extract Douglas Forrester from his life there, so he decided to just fly to Los Angeles whenever he's demanded in person. That said, some troublemaker Thomas news could still be brewing, especially as we get near to Hope for the future's coming fashion show. That could lead to Thomas spending further time in LA. Or perhaps he could indeed contend on Hope flying out to Paris rather. We could clearly imagine Thomas trying to reconnect with Hope over new designs, meetings and events. Thomas might also sculpt out some family time with Hope and Douglas since he's frequently used their son to grow near to her in the history. Thomas broke off his engagement with Paris Buckingham, so he must be lonely if he hasn't worked effects out with her or set up someone differently. The lonelier Thomas gets, the more likely it becomes that he'll Gamara to a bad place mentally. Thomas could fluently come hung up with Hope again, and decide it was a mistake to let her go. Maybe Thomas could get fixated on what might have been if he'd been patient when Hope was dragging her bases on their own engagement. Thomas might decide to make some moves on Hope or dig into his bag of old tricks as a schemer. Could Hope get swept up in her former magnet to Thomas if that happens? Will Hope stay pious to Liam rather? B&B could get a lot of drama out of Thomas wanting Hope back, and trying to make some swells in her relationship with Liam. So stay tuned to see if the pens might take that route. On an emotional new chapter of The Bold and the Beautiful, the fragile peace between Hope Logan Spencer and Liam Spencer begins to show subtle but inarguable cracks, proving formally again that in Los Angeles, love is no way safe for long. Hope has worked lifelessly to rebuild her marriage, persuading herself that the chaos of the once, the secrets, the backstabbings, the divided commitment are eventually behind them. Liam, for his part, wants stability further than ever. He wants a calm home for Beth. He wants to believe that Hope's heart is forcefully anchored to him, and not drifting toward old emotional storms. But the return of Thomas Forrester to Hope for the future has still reignited pressures that neither Hope nor Liam can ignore, no matter how important they pretend everything is fine. Thomas's presence looms large indeed when he isn't physically in Los Angeles. Working primarily from Paris, he seems distant, nearly inoffensive. It's the perfect arrangement on paper. Designs are delivered. Meetings are listed nearly. Appearances are limited. Yet the verity is far more complicated. Every sketch Thomas sends carries history. Every creative collaboration reopens a connection that was formerly intensively particular. Hope remembers the passion they participated, not just romantic passion but creative community. Thomas has always understood her vision in a way that many others could. He anticipates her aesthetic instincts. He elevates her generalities. Professionally, he's necessary. Emotionally, he's dangerous. Liam senses it. He tells himself he's being paranoid, but the anxiety creeps in anyway. He watches Hope light up during conference calls with Thomas. He notices how animated she becomes, agitating fabrics, outlines, and runway generalities when Thomas is involved. He tries to suppress the covetousness, reminding himself that Thomas lives across the ocean now, that Hope chose him, chose their marriage over Thomas. But Liam's history with Thomas is riddled with contest, mistrust, and emotional warfare. He knows better than anyone that Thomas is able of preoccupation. He's seen how far Thomas can go when fixated on Hope. Meanwhile, Thomas insists he's changed. He presents himself as mature, focused, and devoted primarily to Douglas. Breaking off his engagement to Paris Buckingham left him reflective, maybe indeed lonely. He tells Steffi that his precedence is stability for Douglas, that he doesn't want to extract their life in Paris. But loneliness has a way of distorting perspective. Late nights in his Paris plant give Thomas too important time to suppose about what might have been. He renewals moments with Hope, the nearly marriage, the tender-heartedness, the time she sounded ready to completely commit ahead doubt caught her. In his mind, he begins rewriting history, persuading himself that if he'd just been more patient, If he'd given Hope further time, she'd be his woman. Now, as Hope for the future prepares for its forthcoming fashion show, the stakes rise dramatically. This is further than a collection launch. It's a statement. The line has faced insecurity before. It needs to prove its applicability and strength. Thomas insists on being present in Los Angeles for an extended period to oversee final fittings and creative direction. On the face, it's a professional necessity. Beneath the face, it's an occasion. Propinquity changes everything. Virtual meetings are safe. Shared physical space is not. Hope originally feels uneasy about Thomas spending weeks in LA. She tells herself the discomfort stems from professionalism, from not wanting old rumors to resurface. But deep down, she knows it's more complicated. She remembers how glamorous Thomas can be in person, violent, attentive, concentrated on her. There was a time when that intensity felt intoxicating. Liam sees her vacillation and interprets it as undetermined passions. Arguments start small but escalate snappily. Liam questions why Thomas needs to be there so long. Hope defends the decision as rigorously business. Neither of them says the real fear out loud. What if history reprises itself? Thomas, formerly back in Los Angeles, is careful at first. He keeps exchanges about design. He maintains regardful distance. He spends visible time with Douglas, buttressing his image as a devoted father. But subtle cracks appear. Moping ganders. Respects that feel slightly too particular. References to participated recollections. Hope tries to deflect the focus, yet she doesn't incontinently shut him down. That nebulosity is all Thomas needs. In his mind, it signals possibility. Douglas, innocent yet perceptive, senses the pressure. He loves his father. He loves Hope. He wants harmony. Thomas unintentionally, or maybe subconsciously, uses family time as a ground. Group lunches. Planning sessions that turn into casual feasts. Moments that blur professional and particular lines. Liam grows decreasingly uncomfortable watching Thomas integrate himself into their route again. Old injuries renew. He remembers the manipulation, the schemes, the emotional traps Thomas formerly orchestrated. The loneliness Thomas feels becomes a catalyst. Without Paris, without a romantic anchor, he drifts back toward familiar obsession. He begins persuading himself that Hope settled for Liam out of safety rather than passion. He interprets every connubial disagreement between Hope and Liam as evidence that their foundation is weak. In private moments, Thomas gapes at old prints, revisits dispatches, relives the nearly marriage. The narrative in his head shifts from acceptance to lament to determination. Hope, meanwhile, struggles internally. She loves Liam. She believes in their family. But she can't deny the creative electricity she shares with Thomas. When they unite, ideas flow painlessly. There's a spark that feels inarguable. She hates herself for indeed noticing. She reassures Liam constantly, yet part of her prodigies why Thomas's blessing still matters to her. As the fashion show approaches, pressure intensifies. Long practices, last nanosecond differences, media buzz. Everything creates heightened emotion. One late night at the design office, prostration lowers defenses. Thomas opens up about Paris, about feeling like he lost commodity precious with Hope because he rushed her. He speaks vocally, vulnerably. He doesn't condemn her. He blames himself. Hope listens, compassionate as always. She tells him she wanted effects to work but demanded certainty he couldn't give her at the time. The air shifts. The discussion becomes lower about the history and further about possibility. Liam walks in suddenly and substantiations a moment, not a kiss. Not in grasp, but commodity emotionally charged. The look in Thomas's eyes says everything. Liam's fear crystallizes. He confronts Hope latterly, wrathfulness masking instability. Hope insists nothing happened. Technically, she's right. But emotional lines have begun to blur. Thomas interprets Liam's response as evidence that the marriage is fragile. In his mind, he isn't the villain. He's the man who truly understands Hope. That vindication is dangerous. He starts spending further time around her under the guise of finishing show details. He offers to fly her to Paris for post-show expansion meetings, suggesting the romantic megacity as a fresh launch for the brand. Liam sees it as a calculated move to insulate her. The fashion show itself becomes a dramatic top. Backstage chaos, flashing cameras, assiduity pressure, feelings run high. The collection is a triumph, thanks largely to Thomas's designs aligning impeccably with Hope's vision. In the afterglow of success, champagne flows. Fests blur boundaries. Thomas pulls Hope away, confessing that working together again has reminded him what they had was real. He doesn't demand anything. He simply asks her to consider whether she truly let him go or if she chose comfort over passion. Hope is shaken. For a split second, she allows herself to imagine that alternate reality. But also she sees Liam across the room, holding Beth, pride and love in his eyes. The weight of her choices returns. She tells Thomas she cares about him but her life is with Liam. She asks him not to make this harder than it formerly is. Thomas nods outwardly, but internally the rejection reopens injuries. Whether he accepts it peacefully or slips back into old manipulative habits remains the brewing question. The show has proven their important creative platoon. The professional connection won't vanish. And as long as Thomas remains tied to Hope for the future, he remains tied to Hope herself. Liam and Hope leave the event united on the face, but cracks loiter. Trust, formerly shaken, takes time to rebuild. Liam will watch more nearly now. Hope will guard her boundaries more precisely. And Thomas, whether redeemed or returning into preoccupation, isn't truly done. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, love triangles no way fade still. They evolve, reignite, and explode when least anticipated. And as Hope, Liam and Thomas circle each other formerly more, one verity becomes clear: marriage may be coming, promises may be spoken, but trouble is no way far behind when untreated passions still burn beneath the face. In the emotionally charged world of the bold and the beautiful, peace no way lasts for long, especially when undetermined passions and complicated history refuse to stay buried. After the explosive success of the Hope for the Unborn fashion show, Hope Logan Spencer and Liam Spencer try to return to normal life, but normal feels different now. Commodity has shifted. It's subtle, nearly unnoticeable, but incontrovertibly present. The runway triumph should have brought nothing but festivity. Buyers were impressed. Social media buzzed with praise. Fashion critics saluted the collection's cohesion and bold romantic undertones. Hope stood center stage, radiant and confident, while Thomas Forrester entered well-earned recognition for his visionary designs. On the face, they were simply business mates celebrating professional success. Under, feelings swirled like an approaching storm. For Liam, the applause was overshadowed by memory. The image of Thomas pulling Hope away after the show, their violent private discussion, the look on Thomas's face that Liam knows all too well. It wasn't gratefulness. It wasn't casual admiration. It was craving. Back at the cabin, Hope senses Liam's quiet distance. He isn't angry presently. Wrathfulness would nearly be easier. Rather, he's guarded, thoughtful, watching. That unsettles her further than crying ever could. I chose you, she reminds him vocally one evening as they sit by the fire. I know, Liam replies, and he means it. But he also knows choosing someone formerly doesn't mean choosing them every single day is royal. The problem isn't a kiss. It isn't treason. It's possibility. Thomas, meanwhile, remains in Los Angeles longer than firstly planned. Officially, it's to oversee product adaptations after the show's inviting demand. Unofficially, he isn't ready to return to Paris. The megacity that formerly felt like a fresh launch now feels segregating. In LA, Hope is palpable, present, real. He tells himself he's esteeming boundaries. He hasn't crossed a line since her clear statement at the after-party. He hasn't dragooned her. He hasn't plotted. But emotional propinquity is its own form of pressure. Douglas is thrilled to have his father hard. He suggests family feasts, innocent suggestions that carry complicated undertones. Hope can't say no to time with Douglas. Liam can't expostulate without appearing insecure. So the feasts be. First, they're cordial, controlled. Exchanges revolve around academy, fashion logistics, inoffensive recollections. But familiarity types comfort, and comfort can be dangerous. Hope and Thomas slip into an easy meter when agitating design alleviation. They laugh at participated creative frustrations. They recall early Hope for the Unborn mileposts, moments when they fought to keep the line alive. Liam notices how naturally they sync. One evening after Douglas falls asleep during a movie night, silence settles over the room. Thomas still thanks Hope for always being a steady presence in Douglas' life. His gratefulness is sincere. Hope's eyes soften. "You've grown," she tells him. It's the loftiest compliment Thomas could admit from her. That protestation feeds commodity inside him. Not preoccupation yet, but stopgap. A dangerous word. Meanwhile, Steffi Forrester Finnegan watches from a distance. She believes her family deserves happiness, but she also understands the cost when Thomas fixates. She warns him gently not to readdress old patterns. Thomas insists he's different now. He claims he only wants honesty, check, or clarity. But clarity isn't simple when feelings loiter. As weeks pass, Liam's precariousness grows quieter but heavier. He begins questioning small effects. Why does Thomas need so numerous in-person meetings? Why does Hope feel re-energized after spending time with him? Why does she defend Thomas so artificially? Hope feels unfairly scanned. She's done nothing wrong. She's transparent about meetings. She reassures Liam constantly. Yet consolation becomes exhausting when it's constantly needed. Their arguments evolve. "You do'n't trust me," Hope says one night. "I do'n't trust him," Liam replies. That's not the same thing. But in marriage occasionally it is. Thomas, seeing pressure, takes a step he believes is noble. He announces he'll return to Paris sooner than anticipated. He frames it as fastening on European expansion. In reality, he wants to see if absence clarifies Hope's passions. Distance formerly made her question her bond with him. Perhaps it'll again. When he tells Hope farewell intimately, there's a pause that stretches longer than either expects. No affirmations. No dramatic gestures. Just implied history. "Still," Thomas says, "still. Flashback, you earn passion. If you're ever doubtful about what you earn." The words loiter long after he leaves. Back at home, Hope is thoughtful. Liam notices. He asks what's wrong. She says she's just tired. It isn't a taradiddle, but it isn't the whole verity moreover. In Paris, Thomas throws himself into work, but loneliness creeps in stronger than ahead. He scrolls through prints of the show, of Hope, of moments that look nearly intimate under the right angle. He renews her tone when she praised his growth. He convinces himself there was commodity untreated in her farewell. Loneliness begins distorting perception again. Meanwhile, a new challenge hits Hope for the future. A rival line launches a crusade that glasses their aesthetic. Industry whispers suggest creative leaks. Dubitation naturally falls on overseas product channels. Thomas is protective but collaborative. Crisis meetings are listed. Some taking Hope to travel to Paris to secure hookups and prove continuity within her platoon. Liam hates the idea of her going alone. "I trust you," he says. "I just do'n't trust the situation." Hope insists this is business. And she's right. But business doesn't abolish emotional complexity. Paris greets Hope with fineness and nostalgia. The megacity holds echoes of Thomas's tried new morning. Seeing his life there, the plant, Douglas Academy artwork on the walls, the quiet gloamings, humanizes him further. He isn't the schemer from times past. He's a father trying to make stability. One late night after a productive meeting, rain pours outside the plant windows. Breakouts are delayed. They're stranded temporarily by rainfall. Forced propinquity creates vulnerability. They partake wine. They talk actually. Thomas admits he occasionally wonders if pushing for marriage too soon ruined everything. Hope confesses she was hysterical. Not of him entirely, but of losing herself in commodity violent before feeling predicated. "You were my nearly," Thomas says vocally. Hope doesn't deny it. The electricity between them returns, not reckless, not manipulative, but deeply emotional. For a moment it feels like time folding in on itself. Thomas steps near. He doesn't touch her. He waits. Hope's heart races. She thinks of Liam, of Beth, of stability, of promises renewed and pledges made. She steps back. "I see and rewrite my life," she whispers. Thomas nods, pain fluttering across his face. But this time he doesn't helical. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't plot. He absorbs the rejection still, and that restraint marks real growth. When Hope returns to Los Angeles, she's different. Not shamefaced but introspective. She realizes commodity important. Loving Liam is a choice she makes purposely. Not because Thomas lacks appeal, but because cooperation with Liam feels embedded in participated values and history. Still, honesty is necessary. She tells Liam about the emotional discussion in Paris. Not every detail, but enough. Liam struggles hearing it, especially the nearly comment. Yet her translucency strengthens fragile trust. I demanded to know, she says. And now I do. And? Liam asks. And I'm where I'm supposed to be. Thomas, back in Paris, channels heartbreak into design. His coming collection